Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I am doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing wonderful. I'm so happy that it's May and the weather is just, for me, it's perfect.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I'm so excited about today's topic about vulnerability.
Yes. It's a topic that it's kind of peeking its head through to a lot of folks, but I'm glad that it's now just coming about and being embraced more.
Right. I think it's something that we weren't taught growing up at all. You know, how to be vulnerable. It's how not to be vulnerable is.
Yeah, it was all about, you can handle it. You're tough. Let's do it. We got it. And then the vulnerability was behind a closed door somewhere. So you never got to see it. You don't know what it looks like. So then you interpret it. Oh, well, I must need to be tough. I must need to have it together. And the cycle continues.
Right. And also even in the sense of don't share or don't talk about your problems. You know what I'm saying? You keep it within and you pray about it. And yeah.
The old school, what goes on in my house stays in my house. Don't you go out here discussing my business.
Yes. That's what a lot of us grew up on, and the world is changing.
It is.
Yes. And we're learning how to be more vulnerable in that aspect. And as the world is changing, one of the great holidays that are coming up is Mother's Day. And yes, and so I want to wish you and everybody a happy Mother's Day. And as I'm talking about mothers and as the world's changing, just even think as a mother myself, it's also teaching, showing it, reflecting in myself, but also teaching our kids that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yes, thank you. And a happy Mother's Day to you and to everyone else as well. And you are right. As a mother, especially with having 5 children, being able to not always have it together,
right,
not always be right there, and letting them know that it's okay, especially for my little boys, because even though vulnerability is becoming, okay, I still believe that our males are not given as much latitude with that. And so, especially with our male counterparts, being able to say it's okay, even though they're called all kinds of names, but I'm pretty sure we're going to talk a lot about that with our amazing guest today.
Yes, definitely. And just even as you're saying that, if you're a parent out there and you're listening and you sometimes make a mistake, or even, it's okay to say to your kids, hey, I made a mistake. That's one way of teaching them vulnerability. I'm just thinking about that as that just came up in my mind at the moment. Another thing dealing with kids is a great organization, because we have a charity of the month. And our charity of the month is Patty Place, which is a great organization that helps individuals and families who struggle with mental health, especially here in the community of Southwest Florida. So if you're thinking of, hey, I need help for my family, definitely check out the nonprofit of pattysplace.org.
That is a great organization, especially as some families struggle with insurance and they're not able to seek help for mental health as they need to. And with this being Mental Health Awareness Month, in addition to Masturbation May Month, absolutely necessary.
Yes, and definitely, even as we were talking about vulnerability and intimacy, how mental health is such a topic that you need to be okay to share, to talk about. Yes, definitely. And even in the sense of masturbation and sex. Yes, we need to be able to be vulnerable, to talk about these things with our partners, and even to prepare our adolescents and young adults for this world.
Absolutely, because it's out there. So we might as well talk about it transparently, vulnerability, all that good stuff, amongst trusted people.
Yes, definitely. In that sense, I'm glad you said the word trusted, because trust is key to this part of being vulnerable.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the trust within self, that I trust myself, and then I trust who I'm sharing this with. And how do you go about building that? Which I'm so excited that we have a wonderful guest coming on. And she is a person who has been a mentor that's been empowering, and she coaches soulfully and helps people over 15 years to reignite and to transform their lives in the sense of helping people deal with vulnerability and intimacy. So she has them unlock their power and orgasm and how to be authentic, which authentic, I mean, we haven't used that word yet, but it's I think an essential ingredient to be vulnerable.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back and we will have her on. Yes.
Life can be overwhelming sometimes. We think we are a burden to others. We think that it's better to hide it and suppress our hurt, but it's not. As Cave Coral Therapists, we will provide you with quality, confidential counseling services in a relaxing and peaceful environment. Talk to a professional today. Book an appointment on www.cavecoraltherapist.com or call 239-565-6921.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Hi, how are you doing, Alara?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm really happy to be here. This is a topic that's very dear to my heart.
Yes. So no, people may say it's just seeing me. Coach K had to go take care of something, so to just be you and I. But yes, I'm so happy that you're on the show. And I know one of the things that I read about you is that you have a different kind of definition of what vulnerability is. And I also because it's the Bringing Intimacy Back show, want you also to define how you see intimacy.
Yes, wonderful. So to me, when we speak about vulnerability, I feel like we're often thinking about people around us, the world, right? To be vulnerable to the world, to be vulnerable to other people. But when I help women deepen their connection with themselves and bring back their intimacy, it's really about, first and foremost, the willingness to be vulnerable with ourselves. Because we can't even begin to feel safe to be vulnerable with others if we're not in a space where we are willing to see all parts of ourselves, the parts that we say are our gifts and our talents and our brilliance. And then the parts that we say are, our wounding and our trauma and our weaknesses. Vulnerability to me is the willingness to see it all and really embracing that this is who I am in the wholeness of me. And when we're willing to do that with ourselves, what really happens, and this is where the magic is, being vulnerable with others becomes really, really easy, because there's nothing anymore that you are feeling shameful or guilty about. And so then vulnerability, and in my mind, what follows suit, authenticity, just becomes your natural state of being. You're not trying to be vulnerable. You're not trying to be authentic. You're just showing up that way because of this relationship with yourself.
Right. And I'm not sure, do you have kids?
I do.
Okay, so yes, so happy Mother's Day to you, definitely. Yes. Yes. And so as mothers, especially teaching our young ladies and women growing up, this whole thing, and like you said, about vulnerability, about accepting of self, I think even in the sense of the body, we don't teach our young females about that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I work with women that I had to do for myself was start to own my body parts, owning my yoni. I mean, I hadn't really looked at her and seen her and like really spent intimate time, just me and her outside of masturbation, just like loving on her and feeling her and being like, hey, like you're a really important part of me. Let me get to know you better. And I help my clients do the same thing, and it's one of those really impactful experiences because of just what you said. We aren't taught to love our bodies. We're taught the opposite, or we have been taught. We're trying to change that. We are changing that, right? We're changing that. But we weren't taught to love our bodies. We weren't taught to even talk about those areas. And so, absolutely, it's very much about that there are all kinds of body shapes and colors and flavors, and that ours is unique to us, that it is absolutely unique. I am unique. My body is unique. My yoni is unique. And that is the beauty and the brilliance of being a human.
Yes, definitely. I love you saying that and the importance of that, because I do a lot of couples work. And many times females are coming and they are thinking that it's their partner's job to understand their body and to know it. And I was like, well, do you even know your own body? Have you explored? No. And there's like, no, I haven't touched it or whatever. And it's with little boys, they develop a relationship with their body because it's some of the parts are external. But with females, even our external boo-boos, breasts here, yeah, we are told not even to touch those. So it's just something, yes, definitely.
Yeah. And again, that's something, and I love that you bring that up because it's, I teach my clients to start to have that relation physically with touch. Again, even outside of masturbation, because to me it was like, well, I would masturbate. So I knew that sensation and that feeling, but there was a whole new world that opened up when I just started to just be there in physical touch with my body and just really being present. Like I really opened up all new sensations and spaces within myself that I had no idea even existed.
So what do you think is this fear of the word vulnerability? Like when you even say it, it's like sometimes it gets people like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one is people really misunderstand it.
Okay.
When you look it up, it says something along the lines of weakness, the definition of it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I feel like our society has defined it as weakness. But again, if you're looking at it as the ability to really see all the parts of yourself and love and accept and see that wholeness of you, it shifts the perspective. So now what are you doing? You are empowering yourself. You are embracing yourself. That, my dear, is not weak.
Right. So if you look at vulnerability as basically powerful.
Absolutely. One of our most powerful things that we can do.
Right. Then it's not hard for you to talk about it, to work through it, to express it.
Yeah, because again, when there are parts of ourselves, we're also the other part of, I feel like the fear of vulnerability is because what it's being very willing to be seen. Right. So again, first that starts with the willingness to see ourselves and then the willingness to be seen and to fully see others, because it goes both ways. Right. And so when we're really coming across that from a subconscious and a nervous system standpoint, there's a lot of fear because we reject parts of ourselves. And so we're really scared that, hey, whoa, if I show you this part that I subconsciously rejected myself, well, of course you're going to reject that,
Right.
right? Like, why would you accept it? Like, I don't accept it. So it's such a deep fear. And, again, this is very much in our subconscious mind and in our nervous system. So I have to protect this part of myself because this is shameful. This is not okay. And so I have to really protect it and hold it out of sight. So the reason that it's so powerful is because when you are willing to be seen fully for who you are, there is nothing that you could do, say, that is shameful, that is wrong. You start to move through your life in a way that is like truly understanding who you are as a being of love, and you start to really act from deep compassion and empathy. And as I said, it's always a switch. You also are able to see others and enable them to show up in compassion and empathy.
Right. I love how you said that. And I'm thinking as you go through that, you're able to be authentic. And if you know you know what I'm saying, then we're not going to fake and try to be someone else. You know what I'm saying? Or try to be what our partner wants us to be or whatever. We are able to be truly ourselves. I wonder also, how does this play along with social media and young adults as they're moving through this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like social media has created a lot of emphasis on the illusion, right? The illusion that everything's okay. Look at me, I'm so happy. And has really allowed us to, hide behind the keyboard, right? And I think that too is shifting. I feel like more people are coming out now on social media and being vulnerable. And so the power is going to be in that shift where instead of social media, because I don't think it's social media's fault. I think social media was illuminating something that was already there. It was already our pain of vulnerability. Social media just threw it in our face. So as that shift happens, social media isn't going to become this powerhouse of sharing vulnerability and creating that space where we can all be seen and heard.
Right, which is necessary, definitely, for for you to show up and to be fully present. I think impacts one's mental health, because the more you accept yourself in all aspects, it decreases the number of disorders that you may struggle with. You know what I'm saying? Even from eating to drinking to depression to anxiety. If you learn how to fully be present and accept yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I truly believe that a lot of those things come from that deep inner rejection and shame. I mean, shame is one of on the spectrum of vibration. It's the closest to death. It is a very, very low vibration of rejection. That who we are just simply is not okay. That is deep, deep pain. And that leads to all kinds of issues in our external reality because that pain, it's like a wound inside of us that we're trying to hide and cover up that just really, really hurts.
Yeah, I just like how you just put, I never heard that, how shame is so close to death. Yeah, so for our audience out there listening, can you further explain that?
Yeah. So, this is one of the things, like, for instance, there's been lots of different testings on the different vibrations of feelings and emotions and states of being. Right.
Mhm.
And one of the best ones I like is the map of consciousness by Dr. Hawkins.
Right,
And, he maps out all the different states of being, like joy, bliss, anger, pride. And, there's a whole spectrum from the point where you are, not living
right,
to the point of like you are very much in an ecstatic, blissful state, right? And everything in between.
right.
And shame is right there. And what it means is that it is, I always get these, I think there's diabolic and anabolic. I always get them confused, but one of them is one that serves living and continues to feed life, and the other one is the one that actually continues to decrease life. And that's what shame does, because when we are self-rejecting, we are really separating ourselves from the awareness that we are all one and we are all created from God. And so we are furthering that separation, which is very, very, again, painful, and it really starts to eat at us. And I don't mean just mental health. It eats at us physically, it eats at us emotionally, it eats at us mentally and spiritually.
Right, definitely. And even like you just said, it's not only just the mental health, but also the your physical health. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes. And I realized at one point when years back when I was weighed a little bit more than I weigh now, I was struggling in losing weight, you know, but I was shaming my body. And it wasn't until I was really, got spiritual and really started to, hey, I love my breasts. I love this. I love this. I love this. Then my body was able to work with me to shed off the extra pounds that I wanted to shed off. But the point was it was able to work with me because I wasn't shaming it.
Absolutely. And I've had this with myself and also with much of my clients who, have things, so they're not alcoholics, but find themselves perhaps over consuming alcohol or over consuming food. I love how you bring that up, because I too had this with sugar. I was always a sugar addict. And, I'd find even moments where I'm like, I don't even want this, and I'm consuming it. And I would consume it to this point of like, I feel so uncomfortable and like grossed out with myself, right? Like, why did I do that? And then you kind of go into that self-loathing and like, that feels horrible. And then, you do it again, and then you do it again. And so I love that you brought that in, because absolutely that is most every single time I find that is rooted in that shame and that self-rejection. And so food, alcohol, those kinds of things, even shopping. I was a big shopping addict as well. Those are all things that we're doing to try to comfort ourselves. It's a way of self-nurturing and nourishment that obviously doesn't actually nourish and nurture ourselves.
Right, definitely. And then I'm just thinking about over the span of life with being vulnerable, and as our body changes, being able to accept that, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get the thing under the arm, right?
Yes, I'm in my 50s, in the sense of, just hot flashes, or just your body changes, your hair changes, your skin. Yeah. And it's okay.
Yes. And I mean, like, just parts like, now I have like a belly that I didn't have before. And I mean, also motherhood, my gosh,
Oh,
and
yes.
motherhood doesn't change our bodies, right? And yes, and definitely that owning of it, and like that it's okay, that it's okay that my body looks like this and your body looks like that and somebody else's body looks different, whatever that is. Like, I think one of the things that we underestimate in humanity is our uniqueness, right? And like,
Yes.
that is where our genius is. That is where our brilliance, like who we are as a brilliant, creative genius, is found in our uniqueness.
Yes.
So yes, learning to embrace, that maybe we have a lopsided boob or something like that. And hey, that's kind of like totally unique.
Yes. And so, and I love that concept of just accepting each person, accepting who they are, being authentic, and how that just really, when you embody that and you're just so passionate about that. Yes. How definitely, because I know that you also help people have passion. And one of the great things I noticed in your website, I was just looking on there, and you have this thing called energetic orgasms. Yes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's something that happened to me. I was actually, for most of my life, non-orgasmic. And then I started to get better at orgasming, but it, is one of those things that, like, it took a lot of concentration and everything had to be just perfect. And then I had the spiritual awakening where I had this experience. It's called a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, where I was driving my car and I was told to Om 3 times. I wasn't a big Omer. I meditated, but I wasn't a big Omer, but I did it. I Omed oh, 3 big strong breaths. And at the end of the third breath, this energy shot through my body out the crown of my head. And I went into full body orgasm, something I had never experienced. I pulled the
Yes, but you're
car over.
driving. Yes.
Yeah, I was driving. Luckily, I was driving like, it was like a 25, 30 mile per hour. So I pulled over and I was just like, oh my God, like, what is this?
Yes.
And it's a known, phenomena that happened. And so what it really opened up into me is this understanding that orgasm is actually not sexual. It is rooted in our sexual energy, and it's rooted in what's called our Shakti, which is our creative life force, our primordial life force energy. And so we can orgasm, in all different kinds of experiences. I actually saw this really fun thing where somebody orgasmed in the middle of like a orchestra the other day, and it was really noticed, And so, yes, we are naturally actually very ecstatically orgasmic beings. And so as I've learned over many years, because it wasn't like then from that point on the experience in my car, I was just orgasmic. I had to continue to learn about loving myself and moving through and being in my body. It's coming to this space where now, like throughout my day, I'll say something and I'm like, woo, and I just get this total flush of orgasmic energy moving through my body. And it's just, it shows me what we're really capable and what we're really here to experience as humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that even for myself, and I've been so passionate about something and I'm fully present and I just like get so involved. It happens. Yes, which is exciting. And when I teach, I'm assuming the same thing with you, when you talk to women who struggle with it in the bedroom, many times they're not fully present, not only in the bedroom, but in other places in life. It's so much up in their head, and this is not only women, but men too, up in their head that they're not fully present, and they're body shaming themselves. It's not yes. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I love that you bring up presence, because that was a big part of my journey. And exactly as you said, getting out of my head into my body. And the reason I wasn't fully present in sex or in life, because I really wasn't, I was totally like checked out of life, was because of that, inability to be vulnerable, because I had rejected so much of myself that I to be present with myself would be to be present with that discomfort of like, wow, like all of my self-rejection. So I had to really learn to move through those energies, just, taking one step at a time, being with the discomfort of being fully present, like you so beautifully put, and giving myself permission time and time again. And then, it just keeps sunk down into my body. Where it's not just in the bedroom, right? It's in every part of our life to be fully present, and, to be fully present with each other, because that's where we get to really feel the full experience of each other. Like just in this conversation, like we're having this beautiful conversation because we're both just really fully present and engaged with the beauty of the other.
Right, definitely. So people out there listening and they're wanting to know, how can I start this process of vulnerability?
Yes. So, the breath is a beautiful way. Vulnerability is found in our body, in the present moment, right? And so one of the most beautiful and just simplest ways is just to start to breathe into your belly, which is called the complete breath. It's where we're meant to be breathing, where you inhale and your belly actually comes out, and you exhale and your belly drops back down. And at first it can be really uncomfortable because you are coming into your body. But as you just practice it, you could practice it, throughout your day, here and there. You start to really move more consciously with your body, and you start to connect with your body. And this is where the awareness of the discomfort, the perceptions of your body is going to really come through. So breath is going to help you become more aware of those things. And the beauty of the breath is it will help you work through them. So when we're feeling really unsafe, when we're feeling like, oh my God, I am just so ugly, or I'm just so like fat or whatever it is, we can also just breathe into our body. And it immediately just drops us down. We let go and we start to really engage with the truth of who we are.
I love that simple thing of breath, which is one of the first things we do when we come out of the womb.
Yes. And we continue to do until we don't do it anymore. And then we're not living anymore. It's always there. That's what I love about it, is it's always present, whether we're paying attention to it or not. But
Right.
It's such a powerful tool that we can just tap into and play with the power of it to whatever availability. Yes, you can do really beautiful, powerful breath work, or you can just sit there feeling yourself breathe.
Wonderful. So if our guests are out there listening and they want to get in touch with you, if you have some upcoming things, please, share with us.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always making containers for women, particularly, to come in to really, really be held and supported in the energy of sisterhood. So I've always got those containers available, and they can definitely reach me through my website. I also really, really love, or my real passion is working really one-on-one with women because of that space of intimacy and safety.
Okay, so some people may be very literal, and they're like, "What is a container?" So,
Yes. Yes, thank you for asking me that. Sometimes I'm not so literal. Yes, it is, an event, a program, a workshop. And the word container is through my intention and the energy that is created through that particular event.
Yes, definitely. And your website?
www.alarsage.com.
All right, then. Thank you so much for being on the show. You're welcome back anytime. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. We'll be back in a moment.
Improving intimacy, everyday expressions is all about you and your partner. Opportunities for intimacy are scattered endlessly within every second of life you create together with your partner. Everyday expressions will educate you and open your eyes to just how great your relationship could be with a little TLC. Improving intimacy, everyday expressions provides a true baseline for the strength in your relationship you've been looking for. Available in Kindle, Audible, and paperback.
Welcome back to the Brilliant Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. I'd like to definitely thank our guest, Alara Sage, for coming onto the show and for talking about the importance of vulnerability and the secret to intimacy. And I want to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day. And even just to finish off that topic of vulnerability and knowing yourself, one of the things that I was just thinking as we were going on to a commercial break is one secret that I tell all my clients, basically, it's to never say anything bad about yourself up here in your mind. You're going to be with yourself for the rest of your life. You can't really divorce yourself. So as she was talking about, be positive, be okay with yourself. That's just one thing to always keep in mind. And if you make a mistake, which we all do, I make one every day, just say you're work in progress. But keep moving. So if you're listening, you're like, what's up? Coming up on May 18th, Coach K and I will be back, and we'll be talking about the emotional roller coaster triggers. On May 25th, the magic of connection we'll be talking about. And then on June 1st, psychedelics orgasms. So thank you guys so much for being on the show. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And we will see you guys next week. All right then, bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7th book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.